Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about score reading. Especially if you guys are instrumental or even, well, actually mainly vocal music, but instrumental as well. This is going to be a good skill for you to have so that you can play parts, especially if you're teaching singers. They'll need that. So we're going to basically start small, reading 2 voices at once, and then we're going to work our way up to doing much more complicated things. Okay? So let me turn this around and read. Okay, so we're going to be on page 36. It's an excerpt from something called A Childless Song, 2-21. So if you take a look, you've got 2 lines, okay? Like one's soprano, one's alto, something like that. Let's pretend that, okay? So what the process for this can be sight reading through one hand by itself, then the other hand, and then working and putting them together. Okay, so let's start with the top line. We're both we're in treble clef for both times, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. We're in 3/4. We gotta watch out for B flats if we have any. So let's sight read through this really slowly. 1, 2, 3, 1. Ready, go. Okay, so now let's do the left hand, what we will be playing with our left hand anyways. For the sake of right now and running into each other, you can shift it down. I'm going to keep it in the same octave, so then if you are playing the same notes, like for example, measures 5 through about 7, you're playing the same notes, you can drop one hand, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So, line number 2, I'm going to take it with my left hand, so 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Okay, so now we're going to try to put them hands together. So what I want you guys to do is actually go through, so I'm going to do it with the second beat in the measure, and circle all the places where your hands play the exact same notes. So, to walk you through it, measure 1, second beat should be one of those, and measure 2, second and third beat. Measures 5 through the beginning of 7. Just going to put a big circle around that. You can pick one hand and play until you get to there. I would pick the right hand just to make things easier, and then you can move your left hand, but you can do your left hand if you want to, which is going to be a little bit more awkward. Then from there, measure 3 of measure 9, or not measure 3, beat 3, and then beat 3 of measure 10, and then the very last note. Okay? So anytime that you have those, I tend to like playing it with my right hand, but pick one hand and play all of those notes that you have in both hands with one hand. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I know this is a little bit confusing the first time, so we're going to practice it quite a bit. Okay? So, I'm going to start with 5 on D and 3 on F, so I can move around a little bit later, but we'll walk through that. So, F and D, and then I'm going to take both A's with my right hand, F and D, F and C, and I'm going to take these next 2 notes, so A and F with my right hand. Now I'm going to play D and B flat, D and A. Good. Now I'm going to completely drop my left hand until I need it again and play the all these notes. So A's, F's, D's, G's, E's, C's, D's. Now put your left hand back on C so that we can play C and E, D and F, E and G, A and D, F and D, D's together, C and G, E, and then with my right hand I'm going to play C's and D's. Okay, I know it's a lot of talking through what I just played, so I'm going to play it through one more time really slowly without saying anything. If you need to, just watch my hands to see what they do. Okay? Alright. So, 1, ready, go. Alright, I hope that was a nice introduction into score reading. Please do that because that's going to make your life a lot easier the further that you get into this book and the closer that you get to the next class. So, alright, with that being said, next we'll do a little bit of some sight reading.